If my hands are free, you best believe I was reading this story. This story was 220,000 words, but I read it in a span of 36 hours. Hi friends, how are you? Welcome back to the channel. And of course, in today's video we are going to talk about dramione fanfiction. In fact, we are going to talk about a dramione fanfiction, just one. This story has been haunting me ever since I finished reading it. I wasn't able to start anything else, and mind you, this story was 220,000 words, but I read it in a span of 36 hours. And mind you, again, I did it during weekdays, so I have work in the morning. Okay, you can already tell how gripping it was for me personally, so you can already gauge how good this story is going to turn out. I'm going to divide my video into 3 parts. The first part is going to be talking about the story and why am I so drawn to reading it. Second, I'll talk about the reason why I'm so glued to the story after I pick it up. And lastly, this part is going to contain spoiler, but I'm going to talk about all of the things that I love about this story, things that will live in my heart and my head forever. So if you have not read the story yet, I would recommend skipping the third part for later after you finish the story. Now, without further ado, let's get the video started, shall we? First of all, the story in question for today is I Will Make You Proud by Where Does She Go. Before we go any further than the title and the author, please make sure that you are aware of all the tags that come with this fic. I would say that this story has very heavy trigger warning right off the gate. So within the synopsis, within the cover art itself, you will see that there are a lot of heavy trigger warnings. So please make sure that you know of those before you proceed any further, either with my video or the fic. If you are still here, this story opened up for us post-war where Hermione is an aura. She has been called to a case where there was a suicide, but what she found at the scene was Draco Malfoy hanging himself from the rafter of a pub, along with a bag of his own memory as well as a diary. It posed so many unanswered questions for Hermione, as well as open up a version of Draco Malfoy that Hermione is not aware of before. So what will she be willing to do in order to bring some happiness into Draco Malfoy's life is the whole journey of the story for us. The first time that this story popped up on my feed, I was instantly drawn into the cover art, and I know that the author has since changed the cover art of the story, but it was this version I was so drawn into. I just have never seen a cover like that, and after seeing that cover art, there's just no stopping me from looking for the synopsis and finding out what this story is about. I think that a lot more of us also have the same reaction that I did, because a few days later I started seeing a lot more screenshots of the snippets of the story being posted into the communities, and when I saw those snippets, when I saw those quotes, that was the last nail that I need to bring this story into my TBR. And I think I've already talked to you guys about it in my TBR video too, but this story was my most anticipated fall read, the most anticipated story in my whole TBR list. And of course, I read it and it did not disappoint. I kid you not, I could not stop reading this story. Ever since I picked it up, if my hands are free, you best believe I was reading this story. So let me talk about why I'm so glued to the story from the second I pick it up, okay? First of all, there are a lot of special elements in this story, elements that I don't see often in dramione fanfiction, elements that almost go against our public headcanon about Dramione. The story opened up for us with Hermione being an aura. I know it's not very uncommon for Hermione to become an aura in Dramione fanfictions, and I've seen some of these before, but I would say that our headcanon for Hermione is usually like a healer or a researcher or the canon job that she has in the ministry. I rarely see Hermione as an aura in Dramione fanfiction anymore. The second special element that I see is Harry being with Ron as a couple. This is the first for me personally. I have seen Harry with many people, but not Ron ever. Obviously, everyone has seen Harry with Ginny or Harry with Pansy. I've even seen Harry with Theo or even Harry with Blaise. And because Harry and Ron are paired in this story, I feel like the dynamic between the trio is very unbalanced. I've seen recently how story has portrayed Harry and Ron relationship to be a little bit better than that of either one of them to Hermione. You know, Hermione is like the third person in a trio, but I've also seen story where Hermione and Harry is super close and they would do anything for each other. So speaking of Hermione, in this, I feel like she's a little bit more distant from both Harry and Ron just because they are a pair in this story. Thirdly, I think the bulk of the story, like the spine of this work, which is abusive Lucius Malfoy and bad parents Narcissa Malfoy. I know it's not far-fetched for Lucius to be an evil person in Dramione fanfictions, and I've seen story before where he is the main antagonist, but the headcanon that I have been subscribing to is that Lucius and Narcissa are good parents and they are a family, they are a unit. No matter the situation that they are in, they will always take care and love each other. Or at least if they are not a unit, Narcissa and Draco is like tight-knit, and Narcissa would risk her own life to protect Draco Malfoy, and we've seen it canonically. For this story to open up with those two tags, I was very intrigued. I wanted to read it because it's so different from what I've seen, from what I myself believe in my head. Lastly, this story is very canon divergent because of the setup of the story and how Lucius and Narcissa is and how much influence they have over Draco. The story turns out very differently, so the outcome of the war is very different from what we have seen. And for me personally, this is the first that I've seen this type of war development in a dramatic fanfiction, and so it's even more intriguing to me because I don't know what's about to happen, so I wanted to read it even more. That's the first category, okay? Those are all the special elements that drew me in, but I think most importantly, the bulk of the work, the bulk of the gluing me into this story is the timeline of the story, the storyline, the plot. The storyline here is so combobulated. And I say this in the most endearing way possible, okay? But this story is just so woven. Just because of how much intricacy and how much connection this story has, everything will come in full circle and it will make so much sense for you when you finish this story. And the moment that you finish reading this story and everything falls into place, it feels as satisfying as watching an ASMR video of knowing an inside joke, sleeping on the cool side of the pillow. It's almost like you just finished a set of puzzle. That like gratifying feeling you have is how I felt when I finished the story. Nikki, the author of this story, has thought out every single bit of this story. There is no stone that was left unturned, and it left me lying at night thinking, how much does other people think about Dramione? The thoughts go into this, and why am I reading this story for free? I was laying up at night thinking of how much work she has to put in this story in order to make the timeline for us. In addition to the fact that this timeline is so complicated, there is the fact that this story is very fast-paced. So you will get taken from one surprise to another surprise to another surprise. So you will work to keep up. And also you wanted to know what's next. You needed to read the story because you want to know what happened. I could not put it down because I needed to know what is going to happen next. And I have to touch on it. But the details of this story will leave your heart broken. Of course, the author is going to mend your heart, but you need to go through a journey to get there. And because I was so heartbroken, I was anxious, I was worried. I just could not stop because I wanted to see them get to the happiness that they are so deserved. This story is one of the stories that I feel like even if you hate Draco coming in, you will come out of this story like a Draco sim. It was so gripping, it was so engaging, it was just, I cannot stop reading it. And so those are the reasons why I was just so glued to this story. But before we get to the part where I share with you guys all of my favorite details and why I love this story so much, there is one very little, very minimal setback with this story. I don't believe that it was a problem for me personally, and I say this as objectively as possible. I just wanted to let you guys know, just to set your expectation, this story does not have a very polished writing. There are quite a few typos and grammatical errors, but it gets better as the story goes on. I don't speak English as a first language, so you guys probably catch me making so many grammatical errors, so many typo on these videos before. I personally didn't believe that it was a big deal, and I was able to enjoy this story to the fullest, but I just wanted to make you guys aware of that going in so that you can set your expectation about this story. That's all. So now, spoiler alert, this is your final warning to X out this video. I was just so in love with the fact that they fall in love with each other in every single timeline in the very same way that they did. It's almost like their fate are so entwined and they only have one person in their whole universe, because every time they encounter the other person, no matter the timeline, no matter the situation, they always fall in love with each other the same way. And if you guys already read this story, you will know what I'm about to bring up right now. But the fact that Draco asked Hermione, is this real Granger, over 4 timelines, just broke my heart. It was that simple quote, that little quote, that launched this story into my favorite list. If only for that parallel alone, if only for the fact that he asked Hermione that over 4 timelines alone. I highlight and I bookmark the first time that he asked that question, but then when it comes the second time, the third time, the fourth time, I was done for. But the fact that it's done so well, it's done so masterfully, is what makes this story so great for me. Like I've said, it's almost like they only see one person in the whole universe in this story. No matter the timeline, no matter if their memory got taken away from them, they will always come back to each other. And it reminds me of this quote that I saw on Instagram and I want to share with you guys. After you, I won't seek love again, because I know if I do, I'll be searching for pieces of you in everyone I meet. I don't even think that this quote is extreme enough for the love that Draco and Hermione share in this story, because if you guys recall, Hermione didn't actually search for anyone else. Girl did not have any romantic interest in that 5 years that she got her memory of Draco taken away by Narcissa. Girl was focused, girl was in her lane. Overall, I think the love that they share in this story is just so fierce. They become so reckless when it comes to the other person. They left their brain behind and they let their instinct act whenever it comes to the other person. Hermione willing to go to Snape for that potion so that she can go back in time. Hermione coming to the potioneer in a nocturne alley so that she can trade her own magical signature to get the potion to save Draco. Even though at this point in time, she doesn't even know the full story yet. She doesn't even know Draco yet. Obviously, the second thing that I love so much about this story is Draco. We have already established that we as a community is Draco's sim. And I have already made a whole video defending Draco, okay? But there is nothing that will ever be enough to protect the Draco in this story. What I love the most about the Draco in this story is the fact that he was able to find it in himself, always able to find it in his heart to care and to love another person. No matter if he himself has never known such gentleness, no matter if it's Narcissa, he would always love her even though he doesn't admit it. He still do mission after mission and he still protect her even though she didn't protect him. He still found it in himself to love his mother. And lastly, we need to talk about Snape in this story, the only adult who actually cared in Draco Malfoy's life. And I personally really love the parallel between Snape's story and Draco's story with Hermione. I realized that the first time that Hermione has come to him asking for the potion, he actually has all of the memory about their relationship. He probably is aware of Draco and Hermione relationship, and so I think part of it, he also hoped that Draco has a better ending. He also hoped that Draco has a happier ending as well. So that's what I want to share with you guys about I Will Make You Proud by Where Does She Goes. I love this story with my whole chest because I just need to get it off my chest. I need to talk to you guys about this story before I explode. Nobody would understand what I'm trying to say if not for you guys. Also seen this posted recently in the Dramione community and I want to share with you guys because I feel like this has kind of encaptured my feelings with this story and every other fanfiction in general. No matter if it's not as polished as the other story that we have in the community or as polished as a published book, I would never trade this for anything else just because of how much it makes me feel and how emotional and how much my heart gets touched during reading this story. I know that this video is very unhinged because I cannot help it. I'm very unhinged when it comes to dramatic fanfiction that I love. So really hope that you guys like this video, and if you guys decided to read this story, then please let me know your feelings down below, okay? And I will see you guys in the next video. Bye!